Three, two, one, zero.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
You're welcome to the 5th Student Enterprise Program live broadcast. Tonight, hi guys, how are you? Tonight is part 1 of a 2-part sales series, and we're going to talk tonight about selling online. Now, part 1 is tailored at the senior category students, so that's transition year and upwards, and we're going to talk about how you guys can sell online. The session is not for junior and intermediate students, because we don't want you guys to sell online this year. No, we don't. But don't despair, guys, because part 2, which comes up on November the 30th, is for you. And it's focused on how you guys can sell to family, to close friends, and to contacts online. So that session is for you guys. So let's talk about tonight's show. So it's about selling online. It seems like a good idea to maybe say hello to our guests. So as ever, tonight we have Caroline McHale, who's our resident Student Enterprise Program guru and host. So she'll be asking lots of grilling questions to our guests, won't you, Caroline?
I will indeed, Greg. Hi, Greg. Thank you very much.
Good to hear. And then we have a very special gentleman here, Damian Donnelly. So a big hello, Damian. Damian's from Adman Creative Marketing, and he's going to be answering the really, really cool sales questions. So he's going to be talking about how we can maximize our sales online and how we can do that in a safe and productive manner with COVID, as well as sharing some really good tips and tricks. So that's the magnificent Damian. And again, it's from Adman Creative Marketing. And last, but certainly not least, there she is looking very nervous behind closed doors in our green room there. We have Glenda. No, I'm only joking, Glenda. You don't look remotely nervous. Glenda is an experienced student enterprise teacher, and she's going to talk to Caroline tonight about what her experience has been helping her students sell online. And she has some pretty good experience selling online herself. Glenda's from the Cross and Passion College in Kilcullen in Kildare. So a big hello to you guys, exactly, to Kildare. So hello, Glenda.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
So heavy hitting panel we have, don't we? God, it's going to be a great show, isn't it? Just before we kick off the show officially, we also have some competitions tonight. Oh, of course we do. So we have a teachers competition and a students competition, as ever, right? So the teachers competition, age before beauty and all that sort of thing. So we'll start with the teachers. So our teachers competition is for a €50 Next voucher. Ooh, here you go. So a €50 Next voucher. And the brilliant Damian Donnelly is going to be sharing a very, very special tip. Not 1, not 2, but 3 special tips a little bit later. When you guys hear the 3 tips, Damian's 3 sales tips, I need you to text. Now, where are we? I'm going to put the number up here so you can make a note of this. So I need you to text Damian's 3 tips with your name, your school, and your county to 086 1537 440. That's 086 1537 440. So teachers, when we hear Damian's 3 tips, that is your cue to enter the competition. But what about me? I hear you students saying, what about me? Don't worry, we have you covered. We have another special guest appearing tonight. It's an actor. I don't know whether you've heard of this guy, a guy called Tom Cruise. Have you ever heard of Tom Cruise? Yes, well, Tom Cruise will be appearing a little later on the show. When we hear and see Tom Cruise, or when we see Tom Cruise, his accent's a bit mangled today. When we see Tom Cruise, I want you guys to text in your name, your school, and your county to this number, 086 153 7440. So the same number, 086 153 440. And the first winner will win a €25 Google Play voucher. The second person to text in will win a €25 iTunes voucher. So those are our competitions coming up a little bit later. So that's cool. So Tom Cruise, look out for Tom Cruise. As ever, if you have any questions today, don't forget to drop the questions in the comments section, and we'll do our best to answer as many of those questions throughout the show. It seems like a good idea to bring in Caroline and to get to this evening's session going. So Caroline and Glenda, let's bring Glenda in as well. Guys, take it over.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg. Well, Glenda, delighted to be here this evening, and may I commence by thanking you for being here and for also that you're going to share your experience with us. I suppose as a transition year coordinator and a teacher of the Student Enterprise Awards program, could you share your experience with us, in particular when it comes to online selling? And I know you have extensive experience in this area.
Yeah, so it's been really positive. I mean, I've been involved with the enterprise for years. I've directly taught the subject, and I've also helped other teachers with it as well. So it's very positive. And I suppose I was glad to say that I've been involved with the online aspect from a very, very early stage, really, using Facebook, for example, as a method. And that was really, really positive. Because of course, and that evolves, people are now using Instagram and other platforms to sell. So it is a key thing to do. If I was to say what were the really important things and the things that worked for the students, very much building their brand, having a logo, having a really good name works really, really well. And something I find very important is good presentation of your product. You can have a really, really simple product, but if it's presented very well, if the customer has a really nice experience when they receive the product, it continues to build, and you get referrals and obviously more sales, in the future. So that's really important. From an online point of view, because it's not a traditional shop, the person can't touch the product or they can't see it. What we found was really, really important was to have very high quality photographs and video. That actually allowed the customer to feel immersed with the product and got them that they were interested in it. Another thing I found really useful was for the student to actually explain where they got the idea from. What's their backstory. Authenticity is important in every aspect of our lives. And it's no less important in business. In fact, in some ways, it's more important because you're trying to build trust, and the person only knows you from that online experience. So by having your story there, and that can be backed up obviously with testimonials and so on from happy customers, and all that I think helps really sell the product and helps the student be successful.
Okay, there's some really good tips there. And I suppose the branding and the presentation and the photographs and the authenticity and the video there. I'm going to have to mention, Glenda, you had a very successful student, and I remember being so impressed with her, Rossa Cellini, Tara Hutton. Could you just tell us a little bit about her product? And maybe, Greg, you might show us a photograph of Tara there. Okay, Glenda.
Yeah, well, Tara actually really, all the advice that we could have around online selling, Tara did it. Her idea was so simple. She was at a wedding and a little bit of confetti stuck to the sole of her shoe, and another guest saw the flash of red and said, "Oh, are you wearing Louboutins?" And of course she wasn't. But she thought to herself, if I could stick something to the bottom of my shoe to give it a designer look, wouldn't this be fantastic? So she tried a few different products. She had her red, which obviously sold very well. But as you can see from the picture there, she had all kinds of designs, and it was really fantastic. And she was selling online through Facebook, Amazon. She actually sold into 23 countries. Wow. And had her packaging, tailored to the language of the different companies and so on. And actually, one of the things that Tara said, because I asked her, if you were to give a top tip, she said, really take all criticism as constructive, because sometimes you're so immersed in your own product, you don't see the flaws. So it's actually really good to, listen, take all the help that you can get, believe in your product. She really believed in the product, and it was simple, but she was very, very, very careful to have her presentation excellent. And the other thing that was important, because she was selling all over the world, her postage and packaging. If you're going to do a free offer saying, oh, post and package included, you've got to make sure that you are charging enough so that your margin isn't adversely affected. Same thing with, if you're going to give free delivery, how far away is it? What is the cost to you? So I thought those were really important parts of Tara's experience, and it definitely worked really, really well.
Okay, and actually I have here with me, when we knew we were going to mention Tara, I actually have her product here when she was selling, and the different colors. I bought the red ones, I bought the blue ones, I bought different colors. Yeah. And what I loved about it, it was such a simple idea. It really is just, paper that sticks on or whatever, but she had the cloth with it, she had the knife and the packaging and the name and the coloring and everything that made it so good. So that can make a difference. And well done there, Glenda. Is there anything else, was there any other teams that you had other than Tara that was successful online?
Yeah, we've had a variety of teams. We had a really interesting team actually last year. One of my colleagues was working with them, and they made garden furniture. And again, what was really important was, they had to give really good photographs so that people understood what the product actually was, and that they had a clear idea of what they were going to get. And that's the other side as well. What they found was keeping up with the demand. So you do have to be really careful that you're actually able to that you have enough supply to meet the demand. But what was brilliant with them is this was a huge product. So they did either click and collect or delivery. And again, they had to work out their pricing to make sure that they were covered for that. But they did really, really well. So it's not just small products. Now, obviously, with Tara's product, she could sell it all over the world. With the furniture, it was a little bit more limited. But sometimes people have an idea of what would work well online and what doesn't. And I would suggest that you can actually sell anything online. You just, once you've got your website well organized, you're very clear about what the product actually is, and so that you end up with very satisfied customers.
Okay, and I think that's an important point, because automatically some people think it has to be that small product, etc. there. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Glenda, here tonight to us to share with us?
The key thing is to enjoy it. It can be actually very daunting. And sometimes people are really wondering, oh, sure, everything's been sold. How am I going to possibly come up with a new idea? And, it isn't even that you necessarily have to come up with a new idea, but look at the trends, see what people actually want. What would you actually enjoy? At the end of the day, it's about making connection with your customer. Making the best of the experience and learning as much as you can, and realizing that mistakes are actually a very good thing. Because if you're making mistakes, you're learning, as long as you actually apply what you learn.
Okay. And what about the resources? Have you been using our new resources that are out there?
Yeah, they're excellent. Really, really good. And I have to say that, the support from the local enterprise is fantastic. And the student enterprise program, absolutely fantastic. High quality resources. Everything is step by step. Any teacher can actually be an enterprise teacher. You don't have to have a business background. I actually teach religion and English. I'm from a business family, but at the same time, I think any teacher can do it with the resources that you're given, with the support, and also the visits from the enterprise officer, hugely important. And they're very honest, actually, which is what I found really good. You'd have some students sometimes thinking, oh, this is definitely the best product ever, and this is what I want. And they don't see maybe the flaws. It's a bit like what Tara says, sometimes you're so into a particular business or an experience, you're not realizing, where maybe the mistakes are. And I have to say the support from the Leo has been really, really good from Student Enterprise, really good in guiding students to see, well, actually, maybe that product isn't the best possible product. Maybe I need to put my resources and my energy into somewhere else.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much, Glenda, for sharing all of that information with us. Fantastic, and some great ideas as well, and really successful enterprises too.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Not at all.
Yeah, we're going to bring Damian in now a little bit. It's quite exciting. There was another special guest we were talking about.
I thought so, yeah.
Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
Who's that?
Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
Unfortunately, we couldn't afford Tom Cruise's voice this evening, so I had to do that myself. But there you go. So students, that's your cue. Get your phones out. 086 1537 440. This is not a drill, folks. The competition started. Brilliant stuff.
Okay.
So on that note, let's bring in Damian. There's some really good questions coming in. So keep the questions coming, guys. Really, really good questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let Caroline have a chat with Damian first. And then what we'll do is we'll ask and answer some of those questions at the very end. So keep the questions coming. Okay, over to you, Caroline and Damian.
Thank you very much, Greg. Okay, Damian, we're delighted to have you here with us tonight and that you're going to share your experience with us, because I suppose selling online, there always are concerns, etc. So I'm going to start with, how can we ensure that we keep our students safe while they're selling online?
Well, I suppose, Caroline, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I've looked forward to it all week, I have to say. The things that really to look out for are things like making sure that you use a proprietary platform to build your site. Things like Shopify, WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, and so on. There's lots of them. Not for me to recommend which ones you should go with, but just make sure that it is proprietary. And there are considerations for each of those in terms of the choice of themes, but all of those platforms will be secure in that sense, if you like. But look, whenever it comes down to the detail, really, of keeping students safe, I have a list of a few things here that I do want to make sure that I don't miss anything from it. But look, things like making sure that the business name or the domain name isn't owned by someone else, that someone isn't going to come sue you, as it were. There's been a lot of talk this evening already about the importance of high quality images and video. Just on the subject of images, images are crucial. Couple of points about images. Make sure that you don't scrape images from Google search. I have a client that was fined their invoice for €2,000 for using an image from Google search without someone's permission. If you can't use your own images, you can use stock shot libraries such as Pixabay, that's Pix, Pixabay, or Unsplash, that's unsplash.com, or Pexels, Pexels. Those are all sort of royalty free and free for commercial use. Whenever it comes to getting into the weeds of safety, as it were, make sure there's nothing throughout the site or in social media that can identify the student, whether that's where they live. Make sure you don't use things like personal email addresses or personal phone numbers. Whenever it comes to delivery, if it's local, and most of the projects will be local delivery, make sure that if you're delivering it in person, that either you're doing that in a public place or you've got someone with you. And another thing, a couple of other little tips around it is, just don't overpromise and underdeliver as well, and be clear about returns policy. So those are the sorts of things, but safety is crucial, and it is about using the right platform, and it is about just those common sense safety procedures. Okay,
Damian. And what are the best platforms to use? I know there's pros and cons with each one. Which would you recommend is the best platform?
I'm not that keen about recommending. What I do is, probably one of the best places to start is if you just Google the best platforms, best web platforms, you will see, depending on which reviews that you'll see things like Shopify, you'll see things like WordPress. WordPress has got an e-commerce plugin called WooCommerce. There's Squarespace, there's Big Cartel, there's EKN, there's BigCommerce, there's Wix. Now, each of them have got their advantages and their disadvantages, the pros and cons. Some of them have got a bigger choice of themes. Some of them are obviously different in terms of the cost, in terms of hosting. Some of them are a bit more technical. For example, WordPress tends to be, I think you need to be a little bit more techy, if I can use that expression, for build. Some are a bit more intuitive, a bit easier to build than others. And something that I really do want to make mention of is that some of them are better for search engine optimization, SEO, than others. And that is not least of your considerations. This is not just about building a beautiful looking site. It's also about making sure that your site is actually found in search. And we talked earlier on about top 3 tips. One of them pretty much is really about getting found. So that is your search engine optimization. That's things like your search engine optimization, your website search engine optimization, things like paid social activity, things like Google Ads and so on. But very, very important that whatever platform that you choose lends itself well to good SEO, as it were.
Okay. And I suppose as teachers and parents, what's the best way they can actually supervise online selling?
It is things pretty much I've mentioned already, Caroline. It is making sure that there's nothing, say, in the site that can really identify the student, where they live, or their relatives as such, and that can come down to even things like, if say a product, there's a product image, make sure that that's not identifiable as a house number or something, like that. But it really is, I think, in terms of making sure, I suppose another point is, making sure that the student has the money, in terms of they've been paid for the product before goods actually change hand. And there are a number of sort of good practice things about, making sure that goods, say, aren't handed over until payment's been made in full. I think that it's very, very important, if you can, whenever it comes to selling to a customer, that there are some that you're clear about who you're selling to. So how is that customer identifiable? Where do they live? What data are you collecting from them, to make sure that you have, that you're protecting yourself? Who are they? Do they have a phone number? Do they have an email address? As much as you possibly can, insofar as you can. Okay.
And how do I make up for the fact that customers can't actually see or feel the goods when you're actually selling online?
Okay, well, look, again, we're talking about the high quality images. We're talking about video content. Again, those are absolutes. They really are. There is a bit of a trade-off whenever it comes to images within websites. We'll talk about social media in a moment. You need to be careful, really. There is that, high quality versus if your image spec is too high, the difficulty then that can create is that can have an impact on how quickly, or indeed how slowly, your website will load in a mobile device. That in turn has a negative impact really on the user experience. And Google actually can, Google in fact can penalize you for that under what they call mobile first indexing, but there's no need to get into the detail of that. So there's that trade-off. Whatever site or whatever platform that you do use to build your site, it will come with a recommended spec, as it were, whenever it comes to images. So it's that trade-off between quality and making sure that it's not such a big file that it pulls the load speed down. Descriptions are obviously crucial as well. On a note about descriptions, if it's your own product, obviously you'll be writing your own descriptions, and make sure that they are keyword based. In other words, they are based along the things that people are likely to be searching for, your customers are searching for. But also that, I've lost my train of thought now. Can you remind me just what I said there? No, that they're keyword based. Sorry, no, I'm back on. I'm back. If you're selling someone else's products, and this is very, very important, Caroline, is don't replicate manufacturers' descriptions within your content. Rewrite it. So if you're selling, for example, products from the candle, the Wicklow Candle Company, there will be probably 20 other people selling candles from the Wicklow Candle Company. Make sure that your description is a unique one.
Okay, right. That's very, very good to know about that. And how can the students reach their target market, and how important are analytics for them?
Analytics for me as a digital marketing consultant are pretty much everything. For example, within your website, and it's absolutely crucial that whatever website that you set up, Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a free service, offered by Google. You can learn where your traffic's coming from, whether it's a mobile device they're using or desktop device. You can see their behaviours on page. In other words, are they falling off a particular page? Is the bounce rate high? Are they not spending enough time on particular pages? What their journey is through the website. The use of Google Analytics, I use it day in, day out. I'm working on a strategy for e-commerce at the moment, and I can see all manner of good stuff and I can see all manner of bad stuff. But what it really helps me identify as a digital marketing consultant is potential roadblocks to conversion. What are the things that are, where are people falling off? What are the little sort of roadblocks or barriers that prevent the customer from making his or her way through the site? So that's a Google Analytics. Each of the individual social media platforms, of course, also, also have got their inbuilt analytics, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, so just keep an eye on those. But to square the circle, you can see what's happening within your social media, but also if you're using social media to drive traffic to your website, you can also measure how effective that is as well.
Wow, so there's a lot to learn from there. And Damian, are there any legal issues or regulations that students need to be aware of?
There always are, of course. But be mindful of things like insurance. Be mindful of things like currency. Be mindful of things like return policy. And this takes me back a little bit, probably, Caroline, to the point about how can people experience the product. If they can't actually physically touch it, if they don't have that tactile experience, if they have the reassurance of, a robust returns policy, that takes some of the jeopardy, some of the risk out of the purchase, and there are sort of, they need to be mindful of any rights and consumer rights, and that will be, that will be extant in whichever country, we're talking about.
Okay. And what about with COVID-19? Has had that major impacts on selling online, or?
It has had a positive impact, Caroline. I saw a stat last week. I do quite a lot of tutoring and consultancy around online selling and trading online. I saw a stat last week that the first lockdown and now this was for GB, created something like 16,000 new e-commerce businesses. So there's no question that, and I saw another quote actually from IKEA, that if it hadn't been for their e-commerce, for the ability to sell online, they would have been in all sorts of trouble. So in effect, the pandemic, while it's very, very difficult to see any silver linings to that cloud, from an online selling point of view, it certainly has had a very positive impact.
Okay, and a crisis can actually create great opportunities as well. Okay, Damian, I'm conscious that there's going to be a lot of questions coming in from our audience. So, Greg, before we call you in there, just look at this. Maybe you could mention the 3 top tips, Damian.
I shall, of course. Well, the tip number 1 by any country mile is know your audience or know your audiences. So that's it. Tip number 1, know your audience, who they are, their wants and their needs, and where you can reach them, what platforms, where they live online. Tip number 2 is get found. That's things like your search engine optimization, and it's things like your paid activity, whether that's social media and or Google Ads. And tip number 3 is create a great user experience. That's things like website navigation, ease of checkout, fast load speeds, especially in mobile. So that's the 3 tips. Know your audience, get found, create a great user experience.
Okay, teachers, go. This is not a drill. There's a €50 Next voucher in this. So get texting. Got the words of wisdom. I want to bring Glenda back in here as well, because Glenda may have some words of wisdom. We've been flooded with questions. So thank you so much for the questions that are coming in. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Let's have a look here. So the first question here is Adil Manzoor. Any tips on selling on Amazon?
Yes, some of the principles will apply without getting into the detail of it. Many of the principles will actually apply whether you're selling on Amazon, whether you're selling on Etsy, whether you're selling on social media, or whether you're selling on a website. Keywords, keywords, keywords. And there'll be a lot of good guidance from the likes of Amazon or Etsy or any of those other platforms around good structure of titles, good structure of descriptions, good use of images and so on. It's pretty much the same sort of the same premise wherever you're selling online.
Super. So think keywords. Get into the head of your customer. What are they going to type or even speak into their mobile phone when looking for your product or service? Brilliant, Damian. Another question then that's in. Which is, I think, a fairly common one with a lot of students is, should we make a website? I know you mentioned Wix, you mentioned WordPress, you mentioned Shopify, you mentioned all these amazing platforms. Should we make a website, or should we stick to Facebook and Amazon?
I always think that a website is the center of the universe whenever it comes to your online visibility, and all roads will ultimately lead to your website. For example, if you're on Instagram and you have an e-commerce site, well, then you can do a thing called shoppable posts that you can link directly from Instagram to a particular product within your website. Same with Facebook. I mean, for me, say all roads lead to your website. And yes, it's yours. The thing is that we are but lodgers, we are but guests on all of these other platforms. We don't own them. We own our website.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've always said building your marketing strategy on Facebook is like building your strategy on a volcano. You just wouldn't know what would happen. It's fairly unstable. Mark Zuckerberg could throw his toys out of the pram and shut the whole thing down. Who knows? But the simple reality, I don't know about you guys, but certainly when I hear of a company, the first thing I look for credibility is a website. So even if I see something on Facebook, I go, okay, do they have a website? If they don't, then that rings alarm bells. So thanks for that. Now, I know you reference this as well, Damian, but which website do you think is best for selling online? Now, I know you didn't want to get into platforms, and there's lots of platforms for students to look at. Maybe you could give 3 or 4 platforms for students to check out.
But look, the biggies, of course. I mean, WordPress is used by more businesses worldwide than any other platform. They have a plugin. They have a plugin for pretty much everything, and their e-commerce plugin is a thing called Woo, W-O-O Commerce. Shopify is also huge, of course. And one that probably, if we had had this conversation 2 or 3 years ago, that I wouldn't perhaps have mentioned, Wix is certainly performing very, very well in reviews and consistently. Just be on the point of reviews. If you are going to look at review sites, look at different ones. Make sure that there's collaboration or corroboration. Actually, there is the right word between each of those.
Brilliant, fantastic. So again, have a look at the ones that Damian mentioned, see what's right for you. And the great thing about them is relatively easy to set up. A bit of patience and an evening, and you can have a website up and running. Dara. So Dara, and we were talking about images. You mentioned Pixabay and Unsplash as 2 platforms for free imagery. Dara says, can we use Google Images if we turn on search tools that enable free for use images? So I think if you go into an advanced search in Google, you can filter based on reuse for commercialization, etc.
Look, and if that's the case, absolutely. But honestly, you'd be surprised about the amazing quality of images you can find in the likes of Pixabay, Pexels, and Unsplash. I mean, they're images that they deserve to be paid. They're that good. And I mean, in order, Pixabay has got more than Unsplash, has got more than Pexels, but worth a look at each of those, because I mean the quality is stunning. And I try and avoid Google, for that very reason.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you'll find much better quality imagery using those platforms. So again, yes, you can, Dar, is a simple answer, but you're going to find much better imagery when it comes to Pixabay. And you know where you'll also find some pretty good images as well? On the camera on your phone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to take your own photos. If you're selling a product, you have your camera on your phone of your own product. That's a lot more powerful than some stock image.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
brilliant stuff. Michelle, where's Michelle? So Michelle's saying students, so some may not build websites. Now we're saying that maybe you should think about it. They'll use Instagram and Facebook, etc. So any tips or advice when it comes to using Instagram or Facebook to sell your products and services for the Student Enterprise Program?
Well, if you're going to rely solely on those, of course, I mean, and they are great. The tools are great. But there's a couple of points is, of course, that it has to be, if it's going to be your shop window, make sure that it presents your business in the way that it really should. Facebook is a bit more sort of visual real estate. You've got your cover image. I don't know if you know, but you can actually use video within that, which could obviously give you an advantage, set you apart, as it were. But it's making sure that it looks good. I know that's so important that it looks good. The quality's good. Whenever it comes into content, don't rely solely on promotional content. Think about value content. So instead of selling all of the time, think about what value content, what useful information you can give relating to your product, around the halo of your product as such. I would love to talk more about that. But content is pretty much everything here, and don't rely. People will get tired very, very quickly of solely promotional type content.
People have got to stop texting in questions, because this is phenomenal, as ever. We try to keep this to a 30-minute show, and then you guys get so engaging. James asks, so this is about shipping and fees. So James is going, advice on shipping fees, how expensive it should be if selling outside the country and so on. So where do we even start when it comes to fees? I remember many years ago, Littlewood saying that they had 3 warehouses, one for goods out and one for goods coming back. And
Yes.
That's a disaster when selling online, is providing free shipping and then having your product coming back potentially slightly damaged, and you're in trouble. So some advice there.
Well, look, at the very least, James, make sure you cover your costs. That's what it's about. I mean, I don't think we should really, profit from the costs as such, but maybe to answer your question a slightly different way, and to bring in another consideration, be upfront about what those costs are. I was looking at a website, reviewing a website within the last couple of days, and it wasn't until checkout that I could actually see what the costs were. That's too late. That's far too late. So be upfront, as upfront as you possibly can be, about what those fees are. Because for sake of argument, if it's a €5 product and it costs €10 to ship it, well, that can potentially be a deal breaker. But if that's upfront, so it's important. Look, cover your costs, but it's not just about shipping. Also, you've got to consider packaging as well. So is it going to be packaging that you purchase? Is it going to be packaging that's made for you, and so on? Because that's a cost as well.
Right. Okay. Fantastic stuff. We'll have our competition winners. They've just literally come in via text, so they'll be popping up now in a second. Just I suppose to wrap the Q&A session up. Not just this is a very, very general comment, but maybe we can all give one tip. So maybe Glenda, you can give one tip. So Amelia, just rounding things up, tips for selling online for student enterprise. I know Damian gave 3 of them. So let's wrap up with a tip each. So Glenda, over to you. What's your
a top tip for me is to make sure you can fulfill your order. So your supply line is very, very important. Don't take an order unless you can fulfill it. That would be key.
Okay, fantastic stuff. So there's your tip. Now, Caroline, you're not escaping this one here. I'm gonna get a top tip off you. I know you thought you were.
I thought I was, Greg, but what I would say is also to be aware of legislation. Like consumer rights are there, whether you're selling online or you're selling person to person. So to be aware of that as well.
Brilliant stuff.
Oh my goodness, you're working on it.
I'm online.
Sorry.
Fantastic. Great stuff. That's the beautiful thing of live TV. Now, Damian, you've given a million tips, but I'm going to get another one off you before we leave. So, what's your leading tip this evening?
I think it has to be, Greg. It has to be know your audience or know your audiences. just who they are, where they live online, what their wants are, what their needs are, and all of the rest of it. That's so important.
Brilliant stuff. Fantastic. Great stuff. There was a question in. Lucy Whittle was saying, can we use PayPal to sell? Well, as a payment tool, you can. Just so you know, check out the Student Enterprise Facebook page. We've actually put a post up a couple of days ago with a series of payment portals that you guys can use. So it's all there. So that's your cue to check out the Facebook page. But the simple answer there, Lucy, is yes. Now, it seems like a good idea to talk about the competitions. So let's start with our students. So I've got my phone here now. I don't have my glasses, so hopefully I can pull this one off. So our student winners tonight. So Lauren O.D. from St. Mary's in Charleville. Woohoo! You've won. And I believe that's the €25 Google Play card. There was two winners in the student competition. So our second winner was Tom Andrews from Skolnamara in Waterford. So Tom, you have won a €25 iTunes voucher. So congratulations. But what about the teachers, I hear you? What about the teachers? The teachers always last. We have, it's Michelle Cullerton from Loretto School in Clonmel. You're the teacher winner. That's the whopping €50 next voucher. So congratulations. It's hard to believe, but that's the end for tonight, folks. Just remember that we have live chat on studententerprise.ie Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you have any questions regarding the Student Enterprise Programme, leave us a message on or chat to us on our website. So studententerprise.ie. Okay. Also keep an eye on our Facebook page, not only for that payment thing that I was talking about earlier on, but information on future competitions and updates on the Student Enterprise Programme. So that's coming. That's something to be aware of as well. Damien, I say the live chat's a good thing to have on your website now, isn't it? That's very fancy. God, we're very fancy. I want to say a huge thank you to tonight's guest. You're absolutely brilliant. So tonight's guest, obviously our resident host, Caroline. Brilliant, Damian, with the words of wisdom. We just want to turn you upside down and milk you, quite frankly, for all that information. Absolutely brilliant. And last but certainly not least, the fantastic Glenda. So thank you so much for being super guests tonight. For the teachers and students out there, remember tonight's program is ready for rerun. You can watch it in your classroom in the morning. So it will be live to rewatch, or be able to rewatch on studententerprise.ie website from tomorrow morning. Or if you prefer to watch it on Facebook, you can watch it again now. You can watch it again also on our YouTube channel. Just so you know, our next broadcast, which is the one for junior and intermediate students, that's coming up on the 30th of November at 7 p.m. So that's the 30th of November at 7 p.m. That's our next webinar. I put it on the ticker there so you don't forget it. So that's coming up next, and it's this part 2 of our 2-part sales series. So in the meantime, me, Greg Fry, and my fantastic, very good-looking guest, I might say. It's thank you so much for being with us. Keep safe out there, everyone. Keep innovating, and we'll see you on the 30th. Bye for now. Take care. There we go. Now there.
3, 2,